Hello, into this video, I am going to explaining what one of my favorite games is. It is called Inscryption. In particular, this part of Inscryption is called the Casey mod. What's special about this is that it is more of a specific just run type instead of the normal game, which is just the story, which has implications of a roguelike. But in this, you can start anew and continue, and like on the screen, you can select a starter deck that you can unlock as you play more and more games. It'll take a while, but I have all of them. I'm going to run with the try starter deck, and then with each run, you can put on different types of challenges. Each of these challenges give different points in which you'll need at the beginning, so you can get some of the newer ones near the end of the rows, like no boss rares, all totem battles, more difficult for both of them, which will just make the game more difficult. You only have one life, which you usually have two. Annoying makes things in front of that card have one extra damage. Waterborne sigil on all squirrels, which can be annoying because you can't use them as a chump block. Grizzly bosses, which is the hardest one, in my opinion. And final boss, which just changes the boss from the normal boss to a pirate boss. I'm going to just put that on, and as you see in the top, it increases based on how many things I can have on. But today I'm just going to have the pirate one on. So let's begin. Now, I am playing on a Switch, so depending on what you play on, it may have a longer loading time. Since I am playing on Switch, it has a bit of a longer load time. Whereas on Xbox, which I also have it on, it is about 3 seconds. So this is my deck. Mantis God, 2 ringworms, and 2 rabbit pelts. I'll have to readjust the camera, but trifurcated strike makes it so that way it will strike each opposing space left, right, and center of that card. So it is usually best played in the middle slots, which there are 4 different playing spots, one on my field and one in his field, in which you would want to do the middle left or the middle right. I know that setting this up can be a bit difficult because of the circumstances that were for this. Now that it is realigned, let's begin. So this is our map. As you can see, there are different options, and you can also walk around the building. That's our book, in which we can see what sigils do. And there are, as you can see, a lot of different sigils. There's a clock that will give puzzles, in which I know the combinations to all of them, which is setting it to 11 o'clock. You get the code 116, in which this safe, well, there's a painting, which it is empty right now, but I've already gotten the rewards from it, but it would just show a card that you would need to put in those specific spots. So this is a safe in which will have rewards. So if you put in the code 116, you'll usually get a record, but since I've already gotten my record, it is over here. As you can see, it is next to it, in which you can swap the music to, and this music will be played for whenever you are on the map table and playing. So just went with that one. I can also change the way my character looks on the board. My little statue figurine. Let me adjust him just a little bit more. You change his head, his body, and his weapon. You can interact with things, just making those eyes glow red. In the normal game, that would be able to be unlocked using a key. This is the guy you fight. And that cage wolf would have been used in the main game, and so would teeth being on that skull. So let me head back to the table so we can play. So there are 3 options here, but I have to go with the one in front of me. This one will make it so that way you will use those pelts, and you can spend those pelts to get random cards. In this case, 2 of it. I'm going to go with the direwolf pup, and probably going to have to go with probably the flying ant, since those are both good. So there are 3 choices now, which the left one is a totem, the middle one I can transfer a sigil onto another card, and the bag lets me put items into my items on the far right side. And as you can see, it is best to look in what's ahead. So I think I'll go with the bag. But my pack was full. This is where one of your first secrets in the game will come in, where a small critter will come in, and he'll give you a free card. Pack Rat will, upon played, will give you a free item into your item slots on the far right, which can be useful, especially you can transfer that sigil into something better if you want. So these are known as totem battles, where his cards that are of Fawn will have the Burrower sigil, which will make it so they will burrow towards whatever I have. As you can see, Fushhook will take one of his cards and make it mine. Squanto Bottle is an extra sacrifice, and Pliers will give me extra 1 damage on his scale. So I'm using these 2 squirrels and play the Direwolf Pup. As you can see, how it has 1 sacrifice for these. I won't use that though, since I have 2. I will use the rat instead because I realize I have an item missing. So upon playing this, I just got some scissors, which are some really good items. Lets me destroy one of his cards for free. Really good. Has 2 damage and 2 health and requires 2 sacrifices. As it got hit with 1 damage, it only has 1 health now, but that's fine. I can use this squirrel, and I can either hold on to it, or I could use these pliers and add 1 damage to the scale. Because if I were to end my turn now, I think I just win. Oh. Looks like his mole got me with the Burrower. Which Burrower will go in front of whatever is there. I got my lucky draw and got my Mantis God, which is what my build will be based around. So as you can see, the mole will go over each hit. It'll die. Tank and tank. It'll kill my rat, but now that is only 1 shot, so it'll die in my next turn. He concedes, in which I could either accept or deny, which I'm denying, since I know I can get more money, since if you do overkill damage on him, you'll get extra money, which comes in the form of teeth. So I think I'm going to do this and get as much money as possible. As you see, I did 2 overkill damage, so I got 2 extra golden teeth that I can use to pay to the trapper, which can come from that trapper later. And if you can see in the top right of the pause menu, you can see my money, which I have 2. So which can help in case you have a lot more money than what you need. So this one I'm given with a choice of 1 of 3. This has Bloodlust, which is a card bearing sigil attacks gets stronger with every kill. It will go stronger after a turn. It's flying, and it lets me pick a card from my deck, whatever I want, which in my opinion is the better of the 3. I'm now going to transfer a sigil onto one of my cards. So it lets me choose a card that has sigils. So I think I might go with the Flying Ant. Put flying on my Mantis God. Or, yeah. So now my Mantis God is flying. Which is also good because there's actually a thing called fair. A fair deck in which it'll always give you something that is a 1-drop. Which in this case it keeps giving me worms, which is unfortunate, but I'm going to be using those worms later. I can do this quickly and get a raven egg. There seems to be some commotion going on outside, but anyways, I need to put that pack rat there because Cuckoo will definitely hurt a lot. The reason for that being, it puts an egg in front of wherever it is played, which is good for me if I were to have played it, but not so good if he plays it. Basically means I can't play a card in that spot, and since it's flying, it cannot be destroyed. Or at least, I'd have to destroy it using one of my cards, but since it's blocked off, it's kind of rough. My Direwolf Pup has grown up into a full-fledged Direwolf, which attacks twice in front of it, so it does 2 damage for each strike. So, in total, it's doing 4 damage, which is very good, knowing it has 5 health. Unfortunately, these ravens are flying, so I can't do much about it, but I can just do enough damage and overwhelm it since I'm doing 2 damage more than those ravens. Now I'm a choice of either the pickaxe or the 3 cards. I'll go with the pickaxe. This is basically gambling. You get to choose one of 3 boulders at random, and you'll either get a vermin, or, like I just got, a vermin, or you'll get a golden pelt. Which, unfortunately, since this thing has a sigil, the only way I'm going to be able to get rid of it is if I were to sacrifice it for bones later on. Now, the base around this build is to go to fire camps, in which will give you health or damage. In which case, this is where you want to use ringworms. Now, there's a thing about this game that doesn't tell you, but if you were to leave and go back to your start screen, and then press continue, since where it last saves in that spot is upon getting to the point and not actually doing it, therefore, since I know now that it won't die if I were to go for a 2, which usually fire camps will always give you 1 for free, but the second one there is a small chance in which your card will be destroyed, which is not very fun. But with the ringworms, you want them to get destroyed because they'll eat it, and the next time you go to a campfire, for all other campfires in that run, they will be dead. Which is grim, but now that I know that it'll live, I'm going to put my Mantis God there so that way it won't be a one-shot kill. There we go. I'm going to give it an extra 2 health, which now has 3 health. And since I know that for sure it's safe, then now it has 1 damage and 5 health, which means it'll definitely be able to survive. May not be super strong, but that's okay. I have to go towards this smooth spot, which is just a normal battle like before. But I guess I could also say that you must always be careful what's ahead. As you can see on the left side, there's 2 campfires, and on the right side, there's a bag and another sigil on the far right. I got lucky and drew my Mantis God, so I think I'm going to put it in that spot where my squirrel is. Especially with the fact that this thing has 5 health. And, oh, it looks like I made a mistake. Well, good for me, because I can do that on these battles as well, which, yes, some people could say this is safe scumming. Though, at the same time, sometimes you just tend to make mistakes, and plus this is just for fun and for showing off what the game can and cannot do. This is not a legitimate run, this is just for fun since I've already beaten the game, and I've done everything already. Or mostly everything. So as you can see, the battle will also be the same. It is not randomized, except sometimes it is. It's a bit of a weird, finicky thing, but I'm going to put my Mantis God there instead, because I know it will actually tank that wild bull. Whereas before, it probably would not have. Now I can just play a scroll there for preparations later, doing more damage. Wild bull hits the snowy fur. I draw another card, and just for fun, I'm going to play my wolf pup in front of the wild bull. And I get 1 overkill damage. Flying can be very fun. So I think I'm definitely going to go on the left side, since I do want those campfires. These are pretty decent. I think I'll go ahead and re-roll this, which you can do on everything when you have the clover, which is from the painting. Take the wild bull because it's 2-drop, and it's, as you saw, pretty decent. 3 damage, 2 health, and it pulls things away from it. Another health. Unfortunate for me since I don't really need health, but better if I can get one of these ringworms to die. And as you saw, it saved just now, and they ate my ringworm. Unfortunate for them, they're probably going to die because of that action. So now this next campfire, there's absolutely no risk because they're dead. This is one of the few secrets that is very, very helpful. So now My Mantis God does 3 damage and has 5 health, which means it does 9 damage total if it were to hit him. So this is the first boss, which if you have one of your lives remaining, he'll give you a free card which you can use as sacrifice that gives you 4 bones. Very helpful. He also has 2 phases though. He has his first phase and his second phase, in which I'm reduced down to 1 life, so if I were to lose this, I lose the whole game. So this first fight is known as the Trapper, which usually the Trapper and the Trader are both friendly towards you. You go to the Trapper to buy pelts using your money, and then you use those pelts with the Trader so you can get more cards. I drew some pretty decent cards, and thankfully I can play one of them since they both cost 2. I'm going to get my Magpie, and I think I will play it in this middle slot. The reason for that is because I can just grab a new card, which I'll obviously go to the Mantis God, sacrifice that, and now I have some pretty good damage on my hands. The Strange Frogs will become traps, in which I do want to at least have something die to them. The reason for that being because, well, whenever a card of yours dies to a leaping trap, it will in turn give a wolf pelt in my hand, which is handy for the second phase. Unfortunately, now I have nothing that can give me another one except for whenever it swaps over to second phase. Very unique thing with the Trapper and the Trader having the same mask, except they're just flipped upside down. He gives me an extra wolf pelt, and now I get to choose 2 of all the cards he has. So I think I'll go with that bullfrog, and perhaps, it doesn't really matter since my card will fly over them and I'll just instantly win. But I guess I could just go ahead and take the opossum, or possum. Sorry for anyone I have triggered there on accident. I'm going to get my direwolf pup and just play him there. And my possum can go there. There we go. So definitely getting my money's worth out of this card. Unfortunately, that extra ringworm I still have in my deck is a bit annoying because that would mean I either pull a ringworm as my first card or Mantis God, which I want the Mantis God. Now, after every battle, you get to pick a rare card. You get 1 of 3 options. Get another Mantis God, the Dallas, or Strange Larva. I'm going to pick the Mantis God, obviously. But the Dallas will summon 2 bells to the left and right of it, in which anything were to hit those bells, it will attack him, which is its secret trait. And the Strange Larva, instead of having only one turn to transform, it requires 2 turns. It first is a Strange Larva, then it becomes a Strange Pupa, and then it finally emerges as the Mothman, which does 7 damage and has 7 health. A very strong card if you are patient. I'm going to take my 2-drop, which is a River Snapper, which isn't really the best, but it is a very good tank. Doing that so I can go to my next campfire, which will give me even more damage. So I'll obviously go with my Mantis God, and now my Mantis God does 5 damage and 5 health. You see where this deck goes right. So now I'm doing a total of 15 damage, which is a very big increase from where I was before. Unfortunately, the Mantis God I drew was not my strong one, but that's fine. I still could do some pretty decent damage. Seems like this guy is coming in stacked with this fight, so I will have to be ready. Ants run on a very special instance where ants will gain more damage based on however many other ants are on the field. Going to get my direwolf out, and I will kill that bee since it is the easier one to fight, and since there's nothing else that would come in afterwards. Direwolf pups become a direwolf. Unfortunately, I drew my ringworm, but that's fine. I'm still doing more damage than what he's doing, and I should just win on my next turn by default. With 1 bit of overkill damage, which is great. Now, there are 4 bosses in this, since I've beaten 1. I will definitely. The Rattler is okay, but as you saw, I flipped. If you might have saw that one card that was all staticky, will upon drawn will give you one random card out of the entire game. Transfer my sigils. I might just give Thorns and put it on that Mantis God. The reason for this is because later there is a man called the Mycologist. The Mycologist will combine two cards as health, damage, and sigils, which I do not see one right now, so I'm just going to go right towards that fire. I drew a worker ant that has digging, which digging is pretty good for a bone build because digging will give you one bone per turn. Do that to tank a little bit of extra damage. Waterborne can be a bit annoying because you can't actually hit them when it's your turn. Do that, get rid of 2. I max on items. I should have probably thought about that, but oh well. Saving those items because they are very strong. I got my Wild Bull, which does 3 damage. He is now doing a lot of damage. I'm very close to dying here, but unfortunately I can't exactly do much about those. But I can try and copy his damage, but I think unfortunately I'm probably going to die here. Oh well. But as you see, I have 2 lives, so I just won't get my smoke. It is definitely a pity. These are challenges in which you get to select one of 3 different challenges. That the first one is damage. The second one was if they were both of kin, which is wolves, and this one is by sigils, which I got 2 from both Mantis gods and 1 from the ant, which means I get to pick a card that has sigils on it. I would go with the Direwolf Pup because that means I get a copy of it, and it is also just a 2-drop. Got more damage. I think I'm going to give my damage to my other Mantis God so that way it's not as useless and can still insta-win based on if I draw it. I did draw that Mantis that I just now upgraded, so that will definitely help since he gave me the exact same fight I fought before, which is lucky because I probably would have lost again, or I would have been forced to reload and use my spyglass so that way I could. Fortunately, on the left side, I get in the fireplace, and there's a Mycologist. I'm going to go with the Cockroach since its ability is very good. Once it dies, it just comes back in my hand. We can also view your deck at any time. This one's over health, so I think I will give my other Mantis God that health, just so that way it's also as good. Which will come in handy because the Mycologist is about to make my Mantis God a lot better. So as you can see, I can copy these, or I can copy my Mantis Gods, which I'm obviously going to go with my Mantis Gods. It is a bit gruesome what happens to them, but it is worth it in the case of doing damage and winning. Now it is a flying Mantis God with thorns, has 10 health, and does 8 damage each. So that is 8, 16, and another 8. So, in other words, it's definitely an instant win just from the bat by doing 1 hit. The second boss is the Angler, which can be a bit more annoying, which, by the way, after every boss, the bosses afterwards will become more and more difficult. I fortunately drew my Mantis God, which means I just instantly beat the first phase, in which its second phase, which usually be annoying upon killing that bait bucket, that would summon a Great White Shark that does 4 damage and has 2 health and goes underwater, which means it makes it difficult to hit. But since I'm flying, I won't hit it. Not like it mattered. I would have instantly won by hitting on the left and right of it. As you can see, I earned a lot of money. $35, or 35 teeth to be precise. Though for me, I don't usually like grabbing pelts because they clutter up your deck, and sometimes you have to wait a long while until you can get rid of them. The Urioli is pretty okay. It requires 4 sacrifices, but it has 7 damage and 7 health. I go with that. The Hodag, on the other hand, is 1 damage and 5 health, and works like the Wolverine, except it'll permanently gain that damage from whatever it kills, which means that the Hodag can be pretty decent. Gonna go with another Cave. Gonna go with Bones since I don't really want any other cards right now, which is fine because I don't want my deck to be too cluttered up, and I don't want to accidentally have to take a card that I don't want. I generally just wanted the Fire just for the extra health. I think I'm going to give it to something else, though, because after all, it has 10 health. Nothing's going to really kill it, so I'll give it to one of my direwolf pups, since I'll probably combine them later. I unfortunately didn't get as lucky upon drawing, but maybe this won't be a challenge. Or I could use my glass and draw it, which I will do. Especially since I kind of just want to move on. And get extra money for the Trapper, which I will be going to next. As you can see, when you open up your map, by the way, you may view your deck. If you press right on your right thumbstick up again, after being able to see from a more top-down view, I went right on exit, but since I'm already in this, I can't do much about it. Seems I have one on accident because of that. So the best option I could relatively do here with these pretty decent options, I'd say the Rattler, because it has many lives and worthy sacrifice. I'll be putting Unkillable on my direwolf pup. Therefore, for later, whenever I combine them, they will become a lot stronger. I drew said Rattler, unfortunately, and I drew that unfortunate ringworm. He does good damage with that elk, which I think I'm going to take it using the hook, especially since my options are kind of limited here. It will survive. I'm going to use this squirrel so I can sacrifice that ringworm and that to get my direwolf pup. I have to think carefully about my next decision here. I'm going to put it here. All his cards come in. Does 1 damage, 2 damage, 1 damage. My direwolf is now attacking twice. Or should attack twice. Which it does. It attacked once in front of it and to the right once. Unfortunately, I am receiving a lot of damage. Though, on the other hand, I'm getting plenty of bones, which there are cards that require bones in order to be played. They don't require sacrifices. So I do believe I have enough for the Rattler, which I will. Use that to get the 3 and the 1, and now I have my Urioli, which will probably get me the win. Not like I even needed it, huh? This game does tend to take a while to do, but it is worth it in the fact that this game is genuinely very fun. I passed my trial. The Grizzly is probably a good option because it has 3 blood. And I don't want too many 1 blood costs. So I'll just go with my Grizzly. Totems are a bit more special, especially if you can get 2. Well, 2 for the 1 totem. By chance, I got my bug, which totems will, upon whatever head is on it, which can go for bugs, fawn, kin, reptilians, and avians. And then the bottom will be the sigil that it gives all those said cards. Like his totem is giving his kin the power, the bloodlust sigil, which will primarily mean that he's going to be doing a lot of damage with that. Now his wolf is doing 4 damage. I'm on the verge of death here. It seems like I might just have to accept my death here. Which you do relight your candles after every boss, so I'm safe.